It's my understanding that about 20 years ago, Terre Haute brought in so-called outside experts to take a look at Terre Haute and see where we can go and what we can do. And out of that came about 4 or 5 recommendations. One of which was the river was Terre Haute's biggest underdeveloped asset. And that spurred the Chamber of Commerce to Rod Henry to start to organize this group. And the actual name of the organization was the Wabash River Development and Beautification Commission. I named that. Charlie renamed it to RiverScape because it was too big a mouthful. And he was right. Remember the old Ramsey Tavern? That old water hole over there in West Terre Haute? As big a shanty as there was ever in Shantytown. And Susie Dewey, you know her, gave us $35,000 cash, and we took that and bought that whole thing and tore it down. That was the start of RiverScape. So much of what we've done has been on the Dresser side, on the West Vigo side. The trail system, all the land. The land is sometime if you want to treat, go back in behind Dresser, down inside, down in the middle of that 3,000 acres, and just stand there and listen to the wind. You can't hear a man-made sound, and you can't see anything but the tip top of the courthouse. That's you wouldn't think. And some people drive 1,000 miles to get to something like that, and they can walk across there, get on that trail system, go back in there, and God, you can just go and go and go. There are lakes back there that never dry up, and there are lakes back there that overflow and kills all the fish, or a lot of fish, because they get trapped on dry land. It's a link between East Terre Haute and West Terre Haute that hasn't been there. There's been a disconnect between the two forever, and that connector will allow kids from Rose-Hulman to ride their bicycles all the way to St. Mary's if they want to. In a project like that where you're dealing with public monies, no one person does it. It takes a team. If I had any contribution to make in the whole scheme of things, it was that we got the right people in the right slots, and it was we cut it down to almost 7 or 8 people, and then I went around and rounded up the people I wanted on the board, because we didn't need worker bees. We needed lawyers, surveyors, politicians, people on committees around town, people from town who had either had the position or the ability to get specific things done. You know, getting guys like Fred on the board and the president of Indiana State University. I mean, that brings clout. That brings clout that nobody else in the room has, that kind of clout. And we handpicked these people one by one, placed them on there. And many of those people are still on the board today. And they're the reason we are where we are. The one reason the thing is where it is today, and it's been able to get done what it's got done, is because we have the right people in the right slots. And it takes years to do a lot of this stuff. Keith Rubel planted thousands of little trees over in the wetlands. Literally thousands of little sprigs. And they're pretty good, they're coming along now. And I tell you a guy who really, really, really was behind the scenes and everything in the beginning years was Max Miller. Max is, he's incredible. He knew the farmers who just started to buy up all the land over there for the wetlands. That's no job. He had to go around and talk to each one of those farmers and sell them on accepting a government program, a government buyout, to put that 3,000 acres together. 2,800 or some say it's 3,500 acres. Depends on what was included at the end. But Max Miller is the guy who did that. It was his thinking. It was his efforts. And he was right behind me every inch. And Max and I worked very closely on all this. Well, he was incredible. He's one of those quiet little guys who wasn't very quiet about the things he felt strongly about. He didn't say much until you asked him, and then he'd tell you. And he knew a lot about municipalities and townships and the history of pieces of land, and and he knew a lot of these people personally. He knew people from politicians sitting on their thrones all the way to who's the old guy who died, who lived down along the river, a lifelong, he fished the river.
Montgomery,
Harvey Montgomery. He was always over Augie Montgomery's house drinking coffee, holding court over there. And a bunch of those old guys would get together and they'd talk politics and they'd talk this and they'd talk that. When I met Max, we became personal friends. And he had as much to do with the early founding of RiverScape as anybody. It's time for a breath of fresh air. We need to open the windows and let some fresh air in. Get some new ideas, a new way of thinking, and that's exactly what we did. They came in and had new elections, and Charlie wound up head of it. And they've gone on and they've done very well without me. They kept going. Again, because they had the right people in there. Now they're in a position, they've been around long enough, they are an accepted part of the established 4 or 5 groups around town, downtown Terre Haute or wherever that is, and some other things around. Now when somebody says RiverScape, it means something.